Hey, welcome to World Entertainment, and there's a new rumour doing the rounds about Supergirl, more specifically, its budget. Is it actually under 200 million? Because the new rumour suggests that the movie only cost $100 million to produce. That would be significantly lower than obviously Superman, but also of the rumoured budget for the movie, which was said to be around $230 million. So, we're going to have a look at this because there's already issues with this movie going forward, regardless of its budget. So, a new rumour claims Supergirl may have a production budget of only $100 million. That would be far below the $200 million figure James Gunn shot down back in December when he said that report was not even a little bit true. Now, it's funny because he keeps saying all this stuff. Oh, that's not true. Nobody knows, blah, blah, blah. And yet, with the likes of Superman, we saw the tax reform that showed us what the actual budget of Superman was. He shot that down. Then they said, oh, our movie needs to make around 700 million. Then they reduced the number and said, actually, it only needs to make this. And then they kept going down and down and down. And the number they gave with their production budget, which has now gone up, the movie wasn't even close to what they said it was. So this continues anyway. At the time, Gunn's response suggested the real number was notably lower than Superman's reported $225 million budget. Remember, that 225, that's what James Gunn told us the Superman budget was, which they've then tried to say actually was lower than that. And then they said the marketing was the same, which they've now gone back on and said actually it was higher. So it's like ridiculous when they're trying to convince us that, oh, these movies don't cost that much. They cost ridiculous amounts. So now the $100 million chatter fits with that lower cost idea. The rumor is apparently from Heroic Hollywood, whoever the hell that is. So if that 100 million number is accurate, the usual box office math would put the rough theatrical break-even point at around 250 million worldwide. Now, the one thing this article is leaving out with that is marketing. And the marketing cost for this will already be up in the $100 million. So it needs significantly more than the 250 million to break even. So on paper, that gives Supergirl a much easier target than a typical DC tentpole. It also backs up the idea that DC Studios and Warner Brothers are trying to keep costs under control. That fits with previous comments from Gunn hinting the movie would not be carrying some giant blockbuster-sized budget. Now, the question I would have regarding that statement there is, it says it backs up the idea that DC Studios and Warner Brothers are trying to keep costs under control. Why would that be an issue if you're not spending the amount that we're hearing you're spending? If this is only 100 million, then that's not a big deal. If Superman was only the 225, then why would that be a big deal? That's where you're kind of going, what do you mean you're trying to keep costs under? It's almost like you overspent on Superman, isn't it? So a smaller budget does not automatically mean a smaller problem. Supergirl is still a major DC release. It is still part of James Gunn and Peter Safran's reboot to DCU. It is still expected to help build confidence in the brand after Superman. So, even if the movie only needs around 250 million to break even, that does not mean the pressure is off. Again, that number, keep in mind, does not include marketing. This is not some throwaway side project. It is supposed to prove DC Studios can keep the momentum going. The budget rumor also fits with the movie's reportedly short runtime. Supergirl has been said to come in at around 1 hour and 45 minutes. That would make it a relatively short comic book movie by current standards. A lean runtime is not always a bad thing. In some cases, it can mean the movie is moving fast and not wasting time. But When you pair a shorter runtime with a lower budget, it can also create the perception that the studio is keeping the movie small. So the runtime apparently is quite small. Kind of okay, that is what it is. Does that really matter? It's not really. But at the same time, when you look at something like The Marvels and you realize, oh, they went ahead and they removed roughly 45 minutes off that movie. It's like, oh, that's how they got their shorter runtime. Could that be the same thing here? So, that is where some of the red flags start to come in. Instead of feeling like a major event film, it can start to look like a more controlled gamble. Even with a reported $100 million budget, Supergirl has still been described as a pricey risk. Now that's the other thing. If it's only $100 million budget, how is the studio, that being Warner Brothers, looking at it and saying internally, this thing's a pricey risk? You don't be saying that if it's only $100 million. Sure, you'd be saying it's a risk. You wouldn't be saying it's a pricey risk. That would indicate that it does cost over 200. But it says here, that is because the number alone does not tell the whole story. This is still a DC movie with franchise expectations attached to it. Marketing costs will also be significant. The box office conversation will not just be about whether it makes its money back. It will be about whether it looks like a win for the new DCU. If Supergirl ends up barely clearing a modest break-even point, that may not be enough to quiet concerns. Fans and industry watchers will still judge it against the larger goal of rebuilding the DCU brand. The test screenings rumours have only added more concern. Word going around online is that the screenings were not good. So we have heard that the test screenings have been very mixed, and they've had like 5 of them or something at this stage. That would indicate reshoots, that they may have to go back and do some reshoots or editing, which means they could cut stuff out that shortens that runtime again. Either way, you're looking at big costs, especially with marketing. They've already been marketing this thing. They've been putting it everywhere. They're going to Comic-Cons, all that type of stuff. That runs costs up. They had this Puppy Bowl thing with the Super Bowl. That will run costs up. So the marketing for this thing is going to be massive. The marketing is probably 150, if not more. The reported budget that we originally heard was 230 for this movie. And now, out of nowhere, whoever this heroic Hollywood is, comes out and says, actually, the budget for Supergirl is only 100 million. Okay, let's say it's 100 million. Let's say then the marketing is 150. That means you're looking at the movie needing to make around 400 million to break even. This movie, honestly, I think this movie may struggle to even reach 350. But that's realistic, because the reactions to this thing have not been good. People's reactions to the trailer have been very mixed. Hearing the test screenings are a mess, yeah, that's not great. Hearing that the villain is a disaster and such a letdown doesn't bode well for the movie. So overall, I think this movie's going to struggle, and I think they see the writing on the wall. Isn't it funny that the report for the budget being this low has only now come out after the reports that the test screenings aren't going well? Isn't that interesting? It's almost like they're trying to tell us now, oh, don't worry, the movie only cost this, so it doesn't have to make all that much money, because they can see the writings on the wall through these test screenings that this thing is probably going to be a disaster. But it's a rumor at the moment saying that it's only 100 million budget. But what do you guys think? Do you think it is 100 million? Do you think it costs more than that? And more importantly, do you think this movie can even break even at the box office? Do let me know. And with that, I shall leave it there for this one. So do like, share, subscribe, and hit that hype button and all that good stuff. Cheers, and I'll catch you in the next one.